Okay, everyone, looking here to setting up the cash flow side of the system. This system is actually going to be very, very useful for everyone to be able to keep track of their expenditure, remain within their budget, along with obviously ensuring that we're living our best lives. So in doing so, what we need to look at doing is making sure that we've got the right settings in place. So what I'd ask you all to do is in the top right-hand corner, if you go into the settings, under the wealth and cash flow settings, click on there. And this is all the different sort of settings that you can set up. So if you're wanting to be actually able to show internal transfers, clicking that, I don't think that's really necessary. That would be sort of showing the transfer. Really, in my view, that we're looking to sort of only sort of record from an income and expense point of view, what's coming in, what's going out. So I would actually leave that blank. I would actually include loan transactions, so transactions on your loan account. If that's not clicked, any sort of transactions, payments to your loan accounts won't be showing there. Allowed to show transfers to your loan accounts. So they're the three that I would suggest that you actually click. What this will mean is if you're actually transferring money to your loan accounts up and above sort of what you're obligated sort of principal and interest repayments with the banks, it won't actually be showing up as a debit, and really that should be categorized, those additional repayments. If you're sort of putting extra little bits in, and a lot of you are with your strategies, it will actually not show up there as an expense. So you can obviously look at this, you can personalize it as you see fit, but they're the three that I'm going to look at setting up with mine. Okay. Then once we've done that, the next sort of step is with like having your bank account details all now data feeding through. You've gone in there and you've put all your internet banking and your passwords in, and that's pulling through all your bank balances. You can then, once you're in that, setting up those accounts, if there are accounts that you don't really necessarily want to be tracking or sort of keeping an eye on, or so there's just an odd account that's just been sitting there that you really should probably close or you just don't use, maybe just delete that sort of account out. How you do that, once again, is you go back in, click on the bank account and click on that pencil, and then down the bottom, if you did that, you can see the little rubbish bin, and that will delete it. So just setting up the cash flow, I'll just close that down. What I'd encourage that we look at doing a couple of steps here. We've now set the sort of rules up here of what sort of transactions and the like to be showing. I'd encourage you to sort of go by category. So first of all is actually setting up our categories. So under tools, if you go into manage categories, I've actually automatically got a bit of a default going on in here, as you see. I've actually tried to utilize the default that my prosperity team provided, but I've also gone in and added additional sort of categories in. You can add categories if you want by putting, I don't know, beer money, whatever. And then you can then drag that subcategory into whatever sort of main group there is. Okay, you can also add groups, i.e. if there was most of the groups that are there, but I'll put in private education or whatever it might be. If that's going to be a separate group to compared to your dependents, add that in through there. If you don't want to use all these different sort of groupings and you really want to personalize it, you can actually ungroup, or you can actually even go through and cancel all of the groupings, and you may then just put in, as a lot of you have heard me talk about, having fixed expenses. They're the costs that just do not change month in, month out, and then you've got discretionary. Okay, if you wanted just to keep it like that, and then you're just bundling different sort of categories into those sort of groups, by all means. I'm going to use the default because I like a little bit of extra data within mine. Okay. So now that we've got our categories all set up, okay, what I'd encourage you to look at doing is actually this drop-down menu here. It will default to go through by category, but what I'm going to encourage you to do is actually go by date. Okay, because it's the system's going to automatically start to categorize all the transactions of what they are believing those sort of merchant codes are best matched towards. But you know your expenses much better than what the system's going to be. So this is where we're going to start setting some rules and making sure that transactions are categorized appropriately. So I would just generally sort of go through the last 30 days. Okay, now this here, BP Hawthorne, you'll see that it's actually automatically categorizing that against petrol fuel, which is perfect. If you're using a car, if you're using your car and it's predominantly sort of work related, as an example, you can come in here and actually click on a tag. And you would then drop down and go, okay, well, that's a work car expense or a work travel expense. I'll just put it down as a travel expense for now, and that will automatically create that as a tag. You can even create that as a rule. So each time going forward, it's automatically going to tag anything associated with obviously fuel or BP Hawthorne, especially that it goes towards a tax tag. Okay, and I'll talk to you about these taggings in a minute. Now, I'll just go in for another. Let's just say there's obvious here. Obviously, it is categorized correctly, but let's just hypothetically say that it was not categorized correctly, and this was actually, a bit funny. So it's pets and pet care. To ensure that the system is picking up this expense going forward and categorizing into the category that we want it to be categorizing to, we've changed it here once. We then go create a rule. It's going to go say it was categorized against this. We're going to now categorize it against pets and pet care. If it was a tax related event or we wanted to add a tag to it, we can use any of the tags, or you can actually add new tags in. I'm not going to put a tag to this one just because I know it's not investment related, and I'll hit yes. Confirm. So let that sort of load up. It's going to automatically sort of change any of the previous transactions in there, and going forward, it will categorize anything from Optus to go towards pets and pet care instead of telephones going forward. Okay. So now that that's how you would go through and change. So I'd actually encourage you to go through the entire last 30 days. Make sure that every single transaction there is categorized to the appropriate sort of category. I'm going to just jump in here and say, for example, that this transfer was a investment. Okay, let's just say that I've actually moved an extra $1,000 onto my home loan. So I want to actually change the category, and actually I'm going to put that down. The transfer, I'll leave it as a transfer, but I'm going to put it down as a deduction. And it's going to be, where is it? Let's just say it was this property here. So it's going to say, okay, well, this is now going to be picked up to be tagged against this investment property. So when it comes around the tax time, we've got a very clear underlying expense record of what's actually being spent for tax purposes, so we can claim for your tax agent for this particular property. Okay. Okay, so just following on here, we've got here the credit cards. What I'd actually be putting down, I'll just leave that as a transfer, as actually the expenses is actually already probably should be actually being recorded as a debit on the credit cards. But let's just say, for example, this was an additional repayment to your home loans, for example. What I would suggest that you look at doing here is coming in and actually changing that category, because it's going to be picked up as an extra transfer. This is an above your normal sort of obligated repayment, and come down and actually allocate that to the likes of your mortgage or loans, mortgages. Okay, I'll go create a rule, but one thing that I'd encourage that you look at doing, if you are making transfers up and additional to your mortgages or your debts, put in the description. So when you're going through and it's setting those rules, you can set it that it actually is picking up on the transfer description here, i.e. home loan repayment or mortgage repayment. So that way it's not going to be picking up other transfers that you're maybe doing between your interbanks and so forth. Okay. So what I would do then is leave that there, put it as that, and let's just say this one was towards the own home. You can tag it there and the like. I'll let that sort of go through. So that's how you would do your categorization. Go through the last 30 days, make sure that your categories, your expenses, are categorized to the right category. If it's tax related, allocate a tag to it. If you've got an investment property, I think the one in here is showing that there's some rental income coming through. I would actually change this and add a tag in here. So it's actually picking up income, rent. Okay. So that's going to then, we'll create that rule and done. It's not doing that, but the tag should actually stay there for you. As you're getting your receipts throughout the year, you've got a document storage area down the bottom here. I'd encourage you actually to be uploading documents into the system as you're going through the year. That way you've got a very centralized sort of record keeping. You've also got the evidence that you can then provide to your accountant or the ATO if necessary when it comes around to your tax returns. But if you're actually going to have sort of tax related, getting documents in here, if you want to go a little bit deeper, let's just say that this expense here was a tax related expense, you're uploading your tolls, you can upload those documents directly so it's linked against this tag, this expense. So very much a very clean. Otherwise, through your portal, your desktop, or through your mobile app, you can automatically just upload those documents straight into your document storage area. Okay, so going back a little bit. So now that we've got everything in the system, we've gone through the last 30 days, we've got everything categorized, all our tags are there for what's tax related and the like. The next thing is they actually go through and to the top here and actually click by budget. The system's going to automatically work out what your expenses have been over the last sort of 3 months, and it's going to start allocating a budget to those expenses. So, for example, this is allocated that we've got $500 sort of budget. Go through your personal sort of budgets. If you want copies of what you provided to me in your previous reviews, please let me know. A lot of that information is also saved in your client compliance portal, which is the more boring sort of portal that we run for the advice production side of things. In that fact finds is also your budgets, but reach out. What I would suggest, if you know that you want to go and change these expenses, go in here, change it from $500 and put it as $250, and you go in here and let's just say that was $800. It's going to show that I'm within budget. I've gone over budget. Red, not good. Green is good. Okay, mortgages. I'll change it so we've got, let's just call it $6,000. Okay, so it's then going to be able to give you a very clear visual of what you're doing on an ongoing sort of basis, ensuring that you stay within your laneways, and you can go through the entire categories and setting those sort of budgets. Why that is very, very important is we do have some monthly reports that have been organized, which you've probably all been receiving some emails regarding. You are going to receive a monthly budgeting report that's going to provide you with a clear description and an outline of what's come in, what's gone out, what you've actually spent your money on. But the system and the reporting is only as good as how clean that we can get the system set up. On a quarterly sort of basis, you will also be receiving an asset liability and a comprehensive cash flow report. So the more that we can get this organized, the more accurate information, closer sort of monitoring of your affairs, but also the better sort of reporting to keep you in check and ensuring that you are growing and building towards those future goals and objectives. When it comes around the tax time, so I'll just go back in the categories you've gone through. That's how you put all your budgets in. So it's pretty straightforward. Down at the bottom here, then, if you're going by category, you can do the same with the income. You're putting in deposits. Basically, you should be having your income from your employments or other income coming through. Investment income should be coming through. And in this case, this was the investment property. So you can see that it's coming through real estate there. But down the bottom here, as well as mentioning about these